Everyone, welcome to Sports Insider. I'm Dan Labbe, joined by Chris Fedor. We're back.
What's going on?
It's been a couple weeks. We've got a great show for you. Of course, the Browns open their preseason tonight. I'm sure people are already at the Muni lot tailgating. We're going to talk to Mary Kay Cabot about that. Then Chris Haynes will join us. We'll talk about Tristan Thompson, J.R. Smith, the schedule that came out last night, all kinds to talk about with Cavs and the Indians showing signs of life. Too little, too late. I don't know. We'll ask Paul Hoynes when he comes on, plus Bud Shaw. Let's get right to it, though. Mary Kay Cabot joins us via phone. Mary Kay, how are you?
I'm doing great, guys. How you doing?
We're doing well, Mary Kay. It's preseason game number 1. Let's get the quarterback questions out of the way. Josh McCown is the starting quarterback. He's the number 1 guy. So how long does he play tonight, do you think?
You know, I don't think he'll play that much. I think if he can get 7, 8 plays in a series, you know, who knows? They might even take him out after one series. A lot of times they'll go into the first quarter. So, you know, maybe he'll do a little bit more than that. I think some of it will depend a little bit on how Johnny Manziel's elbow is feeling. I mean, if they're ready to put Johnny in right away and give him some good work, you know, maybe they get Josh out of there a little quicker. So those are some of the things. But I don't think we'll see the starters much beyond the first quarter.
Mary Kay, Mike Pettin said for the Browns scrimmage the other night, they were focused on trying to get the passing game going, try and get that through the air. Do you expect them to have the same kind of focus tonight against the Redskins, or do you expect them to treat it more like it's a real game and see if they can get that ground game going a little bit too?
You know, I think this is a balanced offense. I think, you know, when it uses the West Coast offense, so the short passing game as its foundation, I think you'll see a little bit of both. And I think that also Josh McCown, just like he does in practice, will also take his shots downfield with guys like Travis Benjamin and Taylor Gabriel and those kind of guys. So I don't think that this offense, I think people have sort of mistaken this offense for one that's going to be really heavily run-oriented. I think it's going to be very, very balanced. And I think they'll use the short passing game in some ways like the run. So I think we'll see a lot of that. A little bit of both. And, of course, you know, they're a little short-handed. They don't have Dwayne Bowe. They don't have Duke Johnson. Unfortunately, they don't have Terrell Pryor, and he really needs to get out there and show what he can do. But I think you'll see plenty of both.
Mary Kay, let's go back to that running game. Of course, Wilbert Montgomery called out his running backs. Terrence West is healthy again. Isaiah Crowell has been healthy all the camp. Beyond them, there's not a lot of health in this group. Who do you think gets the bulk of the carries tonight if either of those guys, you know, does get significantly more carries than the other?
You know what? I think they'll mix it up pretty good. Again, you know, they're short-handed enough that I think that, you know, by the time you get into the second half, you're probably going to be seeing a significant amount of Jalen Parmalee and a Timothy Flanders and guys like that you know, were kind of just brought on board to help fill in the gaps here because they are down so many running backs. But so I think the first half will be divided between Isaiah Crowell and Terrence West. I'm not sure who will take the first rep, but some of it will depend on how the coaches felt that they did in the last few days of practice. That's how it kind of goes with those guys. They have to keep stepping up, and when they do, they get rewarded with the football. So however it starts out, I think they'll split them up pretty good.
Mary Kay, you mentioned it tonight, no Dwayne Bowe, no Terrell Pryor. When it comes to Bowe, not really a surprise, a veteran guy. His spot is solidified on this roster. When it comes to Terrell Pryor, though, the thought was at the beginning of training camp that he was going to have to fight for a roster spot. Are you surprised that they've held TP out as long as they have here so far?
Well, you know, if he's out this long, you know, I'm sure that they're being a little extra cautious with him and recognizing that he's really never played receiver before. He's never had those kinds of demands on his legs before in his career since he was like a freshman in high school. So I think that, you know, they kind of recognize that. And he, you know, he really wasn't obviously prepared for how much running a receiver has to do. And although he was down working at the Randy Moss Academy and working hard at this, you know, you can never really prepare yourself, at least not in 1 month, for all the, you know, fast sprinting and the route running that you're going to be doing at that position. So I don't think they're really holding it against him. And I also do think that, you know, that he has shown them enough that they're intrigued by his ability and his talent. And I think that they will try to find a way to keep him on the roster. Now, who knows? Maybe he ends up on some kind of a injury list or something. But I do think that ultimately they would like to get him on the roster and see what he can do for them.
Mary Kay, there's always a guy in the preseason that Browns fans fall in love with. They love what they see out of him. Maybe it's a mirage, maybe it's real. Who do you think that guy is going to be in this preseason?
Oh, boy, that's a tough one. You know, the one name that kind of jumps out, and somebody that has been performing well in practice, has been receiver Josh Lenz, who switched over to number 17 this week. So, you know, he's really been doing a nice job, and he's developed a really nice chemistry with Johnny Manziel. So, you know, we've seen a lot of him. We saw him a lot in the scrimmage. We've seen him catching a ton of passes in practice. He's getting just so much work, so many reps, so many balls thrown his way, and he's catching most of them. So he's doing a really nice job, and he's an interesting guy because, you know, depending on how the numbers shake out at wide receiver, he's almost somebody that you don't want to let go. But, you know, I don't know from a number standpoint if they're going to be able to keep him around, but definitely an intriguing player.
Mary Kay, you wrote about this for cleveland.com. There's a lot of people connecting dots when it comes to the Browns and Ray Rice. Obviously, Mike Pettin has already called out the running backs, and Wilbert Montgomery, like Dan said, has done the same thing. And you don't have a proven guy back there carrying the ball. So where do you come out on this whole Ray Rice situation when connected to the Browns?
Well, you know, I wrote a column yesterday just saying that, you know, right now, you know, they're not seriously considering signing him, and I don't believe that they ever should seriously consider signing Ray Rice, at least not, you know, this year when the team is, in my mind, still just coming off of too much turmoil. I just think that this team has taken on enough controversy, enough distractions, and enough guys that have off-the-field issues that they don't need to take on another one, and I feel very strongly about this. And I really also feel that that if Mike Pettin and Ray Farmer think that they're ready to take on a Ray Rice, then it worries me a little bit about where they're at in their jobs, because they can't do this. I mean, they just can't do this right now. And if they think that they can, then they're asking for trouble. I mean, it's just not something they need, and it's not something the running back room needs. You've got, you know, some guys in that running back room that really have some growing up to do, and they don't need a Ray Rice to be, you know, somebody in there that is going to be their role model or their mentor. He can't be. You know, you can't look up to a guy that is coming off of a domestic violence suspension. So, you know, I don't want to see them do that for that reason. And I think from a on the field standpoint, I don't even think it's worth it. You can find, this is a really good offensive line. You can pull somebody in off the street that can rush for more than the 3.1 yards he had in his last year.
Mary Kay, last question. You're not allowed to say Danny Shelton, so give me a rookie that you're excited to kind of see in real football tonight, not named Danny Shelton.
Well, let's say, you know what, let's say Nate Orchard. I mean, if Duke Johnson was healthy, we would all be excited about that to see what he could do. And, you know, Vince Mailey is somebody that I think is going to be good as time goes on, but I think he's still recovering from the thumb surgery a little bit. So Nate Orchard, coming off that edge, is somebody that I think will probably show up tonight and probably put some good pressure on the quarterback.
All right, Mary Kay, thanks for the time.
Thank you, guys.
All right, and we're going to switch gears and talk Cavs here momentarily. Forget all the off-the-field stuff. Ray Rice doesn't do it for me, honestly.
Why not?
He averaged 3.1 yards a carry a couple years ago. You've got guys in that room that can average 3.1 yards a carry.
But if you look at this, he's played 6 years in the NFL, and 5 of those years he has been 40 yards per carry or better. And if you ask yourself, why did the numbers fall off there in 2013? If there's something there that you can dig into, maybe that had something to do with it. And the fact that he had hip surgery following the season tells you that he was dealing with something during that 2013 season. And maybe he was trying to play through that, show his toughness to his teammates and things along those lines. Maybe he was concerned about a younger running back taking his job in the future. I just think when you have that outlier season and you do a little bit of digging and you see that there was a hip injury, something that required surgery, maybe that had to do with this 3.1 yards per carry. I don't think you can ignore that.
It's a lot of maybes, though, for a guy that brings baggage.
For sure.
Yeah, maybe if there wasn't the baggage there, you can look into that.
Right.
Maybe. That does worry me a little bit.
But the running back spot for the Browns right now
not
is
very good.
3 maybes.
Yeah, that's true.
So You want to take a 3-time Pro Bowl maybe? Or you want to take young, underperforming guys who continue to go into the doghouse maybe?
We'll see. Cavaliers now. It's time to talk about them. We'll bring in our Cavaliers beat reporter, Chris Haynes. Chris, how are you?
Guys, what's going on?
Chris, that early schedule for the Cavs, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. They get off. They don't get to ease up on the schedule whatsoever. Chicago, Memphis, and that third team. What's the third team again? Chicago, Memphis, and it's out of my mind right now. But they have a brutal start. But one thing that does strike me is the way they go into the break. They have 6 games where it's just inferior competition. 6 games where they get to go into the break and compile some wins and just enter with a sense of momentum. That wasn't the case last year. We know they got a bad loss against Chicago and kind of disrupted things. There was a little bit of funk there. But overall, I think the schedule is pretty nice, aside from a brutal road trip earlier in the month.
That team, Chris, by the way, is Miami. So so even
Miami.
that game is full of intrigue.
What are they doing? What's the NBA doing, though, Chris? Making the Cavs open on the road. It's opening night in the NBA. The Q is one of the greatest atmospheres in the NBA, and they're going to send them to Chicago?
Hey, look, Chicago, by all accounts, is a prime team in this league as well. The intrigue of having LeBron go back to the place where he hit that buzzer-beating game-winning shot in the playoffs. So, all those intrigues, all those matchups, I think it's just more history and more intrigue with it being in Chicago opposed to Cleveland. But you could have had it either way, and I think people will still tune in.
Chris, Tristan Thompson, of course, his agent came out and said if Tristan had to sign the qualifying offer, he wouldn't come back next year. That seems sort of strange because to me, even if you play a 1-year deal and let's say you win a title and you play really well, it would be kind of hard to leave that situation. But is there anything to that?
I was hoping I wouldn't get a Tristan Thompson question during this part. But no, look. I definitely think Rich, Mark Termini, those guys, I've dealt with Mark Termini for a couple of years now, even before I came into Cleveland. One thing about him, and there's a few agents out there that once they put something out, you can take it to the bank. And I think that's the same way for Rich, being that's his chief negotiator. Right now, I believe they feel like the Cavs are trying to lowball him or not valuing what he brings to the table as far as rewarding him financially. And every time we talk about this, I think fans get this misconstrued and say, hey, Tristan should just take whatever the 5 years, $80 million offer and be happy. And but look, they're looking at the landscape of what Reggie Jackson's already gotten in Detroit, what Paul Millsap has gotten, what Draymond Green has gotten, and none of those players are all-star players by any stretch of the imagination. So they're trying to let the market set the value. I think that's what they're trying to do here. Are they asking for too much? Probably so. Could the Cavs up what they're giving out right now? Yeah, I think so. So I think there's definitely a middle ground that needs to be reached. But look, man, this has the potential to get even scarier. Has the potential to get even more contentious as this thing plays along. This is just the beginning right now. So Rich coming out saying that on record is definitely firm. There's definitely some meat behind it, but it can get worse.
All right, we won't give you one Tristan Thompson question. In fact, we'll give you multiple.
All right.
How much does LeBron James play into this thing, Chris, if at all?
LeBron, you say, Fedor? Yeah. Look, LeBron came out last year. Similar, kind of a similar type of situation with the Eric Bledsoe thing. Talks were stalled out between Rich and the Phoenix Suns. Mm-hmm. LeBron went out there and tweeted out something. Telling Phoenix basically to pay up, break bread. if he came out and did something like that, that would just be unprecedented because it's his team, you know?
Yeah.
And we know how much LeBron James loved having Tristan Thompson a part of this franchise. He wants him back. And LeBron is going to do all he can. I know for a fact LeBron's going to do all he can to try to stay out of it for the most part. But if he is asked by management, which that hasn't taken place yet, if he is asked by management, you know, what's his take, he will let them know, like, this needs to get done, like, soon. And the qualifying offer, look, if Tristan takes that qualifying offer, I personally believe that cooler heads will prevail, things, a deal will get done. But if he does take that qualifying offer, man, that's just so much drama you have to deal with during the course of the season. You know, so what the Cavaliers accomplished going to the NBA Finals, and, you know, just locking up guys first day of free agency, Kevin Love, Iman Shumpert, you know, getting Mo Williams, Richard Jefferson. It's such momentum and so much better to have this a qualifying offer to be hanging over their head all year long if he was to sign a qualifying offer. It just wouldn't be productive. And I think that's the scenario that the Cavs and probably, you know, Tristan want to avoid. So, you know, definitely this is something that LeBron James does not want to see. And like I said, if this continues to stall out, yeah, I think you may see LeBron voicing his opinion some way or another.
Do you think there comes a point, though, where Tristan Thompson kind of looks at this and says maybe it's too big of a gamble for him to take and signs that smaller offer, a smaller offer than he wants at least?
The gamble would be an injury. A gamble would be an injury throughout the course of the season. Mm-hmm. You know, he was patient this past year. They didn't take the Cavaliers extension offer. He bet on himself, and he will get paid this summer if he agrees to sign whatever is out there. With that being said, you know, he's never missed a game. And so he has that on his record. He knows how to keep his body fresh. He knows how to preserve his body. So that will be the only risk for him. Yeah, he'll take 6.8, play another year with that. But he's going to get, you know, like I said, there's about 4 or 5 teams who I've talked to that have said that, you know, they will look at Trish next year, and 4 years, $100 million is something that will be discussed next year. So he's going to get paid. Like I said, the only risk will be an injury, and we know how well he keeps his body up. So from that standpoint, that's why I say the qualifying offer it will be realistically discussed, explained, thought over. But it is a little bit too soon to be thinking about that right now. I don't think that's where they're going right now.
Chris, let's say something doesn't get done this month. Let's say something doesn't get done at the beginning of September. Would Tristan Thompson and his agent be willing to hold out through training camp?
No, I think they would do this. Look, they have till, I believe, October 1st, I believe, to sign the qualifying offer. I think they'll go probably up until that date. And if they feel, I'm thinking about them, like, if they feel like the Cavs are still not going to budge and give them an adequate offer, or an offer that they feel is adequate, I think they're going to sign that qualifying offer just out of a level of disrespect. Hey, you guys didn't get a deal done now? You're not coming to our terms now? Okay, we're doing this. I don't think they're just going to hold out at camp just to get a deal done with the Cavs. You know what I'm saying? It's business, and at times business becomes personal if it's handled in an inappropriate way. I don't think it's reached that point yet. But I just don't believe that they'll just continue to hold out until a deal is reached with the Cavs. I think they'll wait until that deadline to qualifying offer. If things don't look good, I think they'll sign that QO and play it that way.
All right, Chris Haynes, Cavaliers beat reporter. Thanks for the time, Chris.
Anytime, guys. Take care.
All right, so Tristan Thompson, you know, it's not just injury, though. That's kind of the gamble. It's looking at Tristan and saying, how many months, how many games has he been an elite player for, right? In the playoffs, obviously that mattered, but what if he comes out, gambles on himself, and can't sustain that for 82 games?
Well, not only that, what if he bets on himself, comes out, and he stays the backup because Kevin Love stays healthy?
And Anderson Varejão's back.
Varejão's back as well. Timofey Mozgov is somebody that the Cavs absolutely love. So, look, he's going to have a hard time, I think, getting consistent minutes and then getting consistent stats. And those are all things that teams are going to look at. I mean, just look at the playoff series against Boston, Dan. Before Kevin Love went down, Tristan Thompson was a 22-a-minute night guy. I mean, think about that. Are you really going to compile stats where you can let teams know that you want to be a max player and then have those teams determine that you are a max player? I think it's a huge gamble. You're absolutely right.
Let's not forget Anderson Varejao was a better offensive player.
Yeah.
He's older. He might get hurt again, but
right.
he could definitely get more minutes
Yeah.
than Tristan. All right, let's talk Indians baseball because the Indians are playing well. Let's bring in Paul Hoynes, our Indians beat reporter. How are you doing, Hoynesy?
Hi, guys. How you doing today?
Doing well. All right, Hoynesy, I'm not going to lie. I looked at the wild card standings today. Was that a mistake?
Yes, that's a mistake. The Indians are learning how to say hello when it's time to say goodbye to me. I don't know what's going on here, but they are playing better. I mean, I guess there's always room for hope and optimism, but I think the window on this season is pretty much closed. But it's good to see them playing well.
So what are they trying to accomplish here at the end of this season now, Hoynesy? If it's not wild card, if it's something other than that, is it trying to figure out what they have in some of these young guys, answer some questions going into next year, just show fight and determination that they didn't at the beginning of the season? What are the goals now?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Chris. They are, they're looking, they're trying to evaluate what they have, and in terms of talent and how that talent can help them next season. And they're trying to win, obviously trying to win as many games as they can while evaluating the players they do have. And, they've got some people, I'm sure, that they're coming up from Columbus when the Clippers season ends.
Now, Hoynesy, we haven't talked to you since the Indians traded Nick Swisher and Michael Bourne. The trade kind of came out of nowhere. They got Chris Johnson. He's off to a good start, but the guy is who he is. What kind of impact has that had on that clubhouse?
It's interesting, Dan. It seems, Swisher wasn't playing, so that was like kind of a non-entity. He wasn't, and when he did play, he didn't play that well. I thought Bourne had a bigger impact in the clubhouse. He was playing a little better. He was a presence there. But really, I think it's kind of, it just seems like people are taking a kind of a deep breath. They brought some people in that are playing with some energy, that are trying to win jobs. Swisher and Bourne were locked in through next year. So I don't know if there was a big sense of urgency from those guys. So you're seeing that kind of thing. Younger guys coming in, well, not exactly younger, but guys that haven't had a chance and are seeing opportunity here. And that kind of that energy, that kind of vibe always plays pretty well in a clubhouse with a team in the state of the Indians right now.
Hoynesy, Dan mentioned Chris Johnson coming over in that trade for Atlanta. Not a lot of people were focused on him. They were focused on the fact that the Indians just got rid of Nick Swisher and Michael Bourne and maybe in the long run save some money. But Chris Johnson, what have you seen from him? Do you think he can keep up something close to this? And how much do you think it's going to help him having a guy that he played college ball with, Corey Kluber, on this roster?
Yeah, I think that's kind of him and Kluber being college teammates, kind of an interesting byproduct. But one guy's a pitcher, one guy's a hitter, so I don't know if they're going to help each other. But I like the way Johnson swung the bat. First two starts, he had I think he had 7 hits the first two starts. He had to do a couple double plays last night that hurt, but he still had another hit. I think Franco is probably trying to find a spot for him in the lineup. He was going with the hot hand and moved him up into the middle of the lineup last night, with mixed results. But it looks like a guy, if he's healthy, he can swing the bat. But like you said, Chris, the focus of this trade was getting rid of Bourne and Swisher's contract, saving some money in the long end, and whatever they can get out of Johnson is a plus.
Hoinsey, it turns out Michael Bourne was just taking up a roster spot that belonged to Abraham Almonte.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, you know, you read the stats on him, and you just say, oh, that's another switch hitter, can run a little bit. You know, he hasn't done a whole lot with Seattle and San Diego, and he comes over here and, you know, kind of seizes an opportunity, and, you know, he goes 4 for 5 in his debut. He hits a home run the next game. He has a game-winning hit yesterday or last night. You know, he's a fun guy to watch. He's got some energy. He can run the bases. He's played well in center field. And right now, center field is wide open. So, you know, I don't know if this guy's the next starting center fielder for the Indians, but he's making a case for himself to at least be in the mix in the off season and come to camp next year with a chance to win a job.
Hoinsey, like some people expected, Cody Anderson turned back into a pumpkin, so now the Indians are looking for another 5th starter. Josh Tomlin's going to get a shot here over the weekend. What are the expectations for Tomlin?
Well, you know, we know Tomlin. Everybody, we've seen him pitch before. He's kind of a gritty guy, definitely a competitor. You'd like to have a guy like that on your team, but, you know, Frank Cohen was talking about him yesterday. This is a guy that had Tommy John in 2012, had the shoulder operation in March. He said his velocity is down, and it wasn't like Tomlin, you know, was breaking the sound barrier before. But you know, I love to watch him pitch. You know, when he's on, and he's one of those guys that's got to be perfect, that walks the tightrope. But you know, he's a good guy, and I bet he pitches. I bet he pitches well against the Twins. You know, he's good in these kind of situations.
All right, Hoinsey, thanks for the time.
Thank you, guys.
All right, let's send it over to a guy that I know is also checking the wild card standings every day, Bud Shaw.
You know, that's what I love about Hoynes, by the way. He's been doing this for about 75 years, and he still loves watching Josh Tomlin pitch. You can't buy that kind of enthusiasm. Well, guys, Johnny Manziel threw some left-handed passes this week, and a year ago that would have been reason to call Canton to see if he would have been the first ambidextrous quarterback enshrined or whether another trailblazer beat him to it. A year later, Manziel is flying under the radar, relatively speaking. A year later, the Browns still don't have a convincing veteran quarterback ahead of them, and yet the drumbeat for Manziel is a faint one, to say the least. Is there good reason to have lost total faith in Manziel based on his rookie season? I wouldn't think so. But you look at these first 2 comments on an online post about Manziel, and you wonder. One sarcastically welcomes the return of his, quote, fluttering ducks. By the way, don't try to say that 10 times fast. Which isn't quite an accurate portrayal of his rookie season, but qualifies as a pretty good fantasy football team name. Another flatly gives Manziel advice that involves a return trip to Texas and a job outside of football. That seems a little harsh too, not to mention a little premature, given that he's 22 years old and attempting to play the hardest position in sports. Manziel will probably play tonight against Washington in the exhibition opener despite some elbow soreness. He famously told the Redskins he was #1 this time last year, and since then his stock and profile have taken quite a fall. So what should we expect of him tonight? Well, this commenter wants to see as much of Manziel as possible, only so Manziel can make some bonehead plays and calm down the media. I'm feeling pretty calm about Manziel, though I recognize that we do make too much of an undersized backup quarterback. Koch brother, who no doubt was in Cleveland for the Republican debate, do you get that reference, Fedor?
No.
I didn't think so.
Oh, come on.
Asks if we can please wait until Manziel does something to beat his drum again. To which Pete says, you'd have to give the whole team a rest if you waited for them to do something worth reporting. Well, something happens tonight. I don't really know what it is, but something. It's only the exhibition season. But it's still better than practice. It's better than training camp practice after training camp practice and quarterbacks throwing right-handed and left-handed. I say that fully realizing that calling exhibition season better than practice is the ultimate left-hand compliment. Now, do you guys see what I did there? I started this with a left-hand thing.
That's good.
Ended it
good.
with left hand. And still, Michael Brantley has the name Dr. Smooth, and I don't.
That's how you put a bow on everything.
Thank you.
You got to
Thank
talk
you
to
very much.
D-Man about that nickname.
I know. I worked with that guy for how many years, and I never once got a sniff of that nickname. I don't get it.
Best nickname on the Browns, by the way. Scott Solomon. He's known as Bloodbath, or as Paul Kruger. I don't know if he misspoke or if it's a secret nickname. The Bone Saw.
See, I don't like when
That's a great nickname.
I don't like when you're an or kind of guy. You got to have one nickname and you stick with it.
Well, I don't think that's his fault. Paul Kruger might have misspoken. Maybe there's another Bone Saw in the locker room.
Okay, can we talk about this Ray Rice thing real quickly?
Sure.
Everybody who shows they deserve a second chance, I think, should get one. If they've shown it. And I think he has shown it with some of the advocacy work that he's been doing since this incident. The idea that if he comes into that running back room and he's suddenly a bad influence, I don't quite get.
I don't either.
I don't get that. I mean, if you don't want to sign him because he isn't any good anymore, that's fine. But I wouldn't worry about bringing a guy who was a good, by most accounts, a good citizen in Baltimore before this incident and has made retribution since then. I don't understand why these guys would suddenly and blindly follow him if he were in the running back room. I don't understand it.
I think the distraction thing is valid, but only for like a few days. I mean, that fades after a while. But that being said, look how this organization, the same guys that are still running the show, look how they handled Johnny Manziel last year. This organization hasn't really shown that they can handle that distraction well. I think Mike Pettin is as good a player's coach as there is.
When they were 7-4, was anybody worried about Josh? Was anybody talking about Josh Gordon or Johnny Manziel?
No.
Nope.
Well, they were talking about Josh Gordon, but it was hopeful that he
would make them even better.
But then again, when Josh Gordon came back, look what it did. They fixated on the guy.
Right.
And
But that was a fixation on the field.
Yeah, that's different. That's on the field. To your point about the running back room, I think it would have a positive impact on a guy like Terrence West. Look, Terrence West is from Baltimore, is he not? I would believe that he watched Ray Rice. He saw Ray Rice up close and personal. So there's that. And number two, one of the problems with Isaiah Crowell and Terrence West and Duke Johnson right now, they're not pros. They have no idea what it takes to be a professional. They have no idea what it means to be a professional. And that's something that is a point of frustration, it seems like, with the organization right now with those guys. You can say a lot of things about Ray Rice, and you can, and some of them are going to be absolutely true. He is a pro. He understands how to work. He understands how to carry himself. He understands how to be a pro. And he also goes into that locker room with a story to tell about his dream nearly getting taken away from him, and it could be gone at the snap of a finger. If that's not going to wake up Isaiah Crowell, if that's not going to wake up Terrence West, if that's not going to wake up Justin Gilbert, then that's on them.
But I also have a problem with bringing in a guy to teach guys how to be a pro who punched his fiance, now wife, and knocked her out in an elevator.
For sure. I mean, that's
So who would you like to bring in to teach him? Ben Tate?
No.
I mean, if we're talking about work ethic on the field and being a pro on the field, all of those characteristics, I think that's different than the off-the-field stuff. And for him, I mean, he has apologized. He has served his suspension. He's not in jail. He has become an advocate, somebody who has spoken up on domestic violence. I mean, what else can this guy do to get back in the league if that kind of stuff is not enough?
We accept your apology for being wrong, Dan.
If they do their homework and they're convinced that he is a different person, then it's probably worth a shot. But
see, we flipped him.
It's still hard for me to, on one hand, say this guy can teach younger backs how to be a pro, how to have good character, when there's video out there of him punching a woman in an elevator. That's still an issue.
So Dan does not believe in second chances. Okay.
Apparently not.
All right.
All right. That's it for Sports Insider. Thanks to Bud Shaw, Chris Fedor, Paul Hoynes, Chris Haynes, Mary Kay Cabot. Of course, we'll have complete coverage of the Browns-Redskins preseason game #1. It is a holiday here in Cleveland for some reason at cleveland.com/Browns tonight. Thanks for watching.